Okay, we have two rules that you're going to be doing today. One of them is about how if you have a number to the 0 power, that is equal to 1. Okay, and it doesn't matter what that number is. It could be 3 to the 0 power, or it could be 5 to the 0 power, or it could be negative 10 to the 0 power. It doesn't matter what it is, it's equal to 1. And as you saw in our activity in class, you know, if we follow these things, like if we had 3 squared, well, that's 3 times 3, right? There's going to be 2 of them because it's squared. If we had 3 to the 1, then that's going to be 3, just a 3. You don't have any more 3's. And so what if you had 3 to the 0? Well, that means you don't have any 3's, so there's nothing to put there. But you do need to have something, right? And so as we go, it's just like if you had an x, what could you put in front of it? You could put a 1. Well, in front of all of these, I could put a times 1. And so really 3 to the 0 power is just going to be 1. Okay, so it's just like we're working our way down. We had 2 3's, now we had 1 3, now I have no 3's, but I still have something there. And so your third rule that you should have in your notes is that any number to the 0 power is equal to 1. This is a very important rule to have in your notes. Also to have in your notes is what if we started going negative, right? Well, the other way I could have looked at these is to get from here to here, I could divide by 3, right? So if I divided these by 3, one of the 3's would cancel, and I just have 1 3 left over to go to that one. And for this one, if I could divide by 3, so then those would cancel, so what I would have left over is just a 1. So then to go from here to here, what I can do is I can divide by 3. So I have 1 over 3 as 3 to the negative 1. What if I wanted to go 3 to the negative 2? Well, then to go from here to here, I'm going to have to take this and I'm going to have to divide it by 3. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to like show a whole nother division. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I am going to just keep it on the bottom with the one that's already there. So I'm going to have another 3 on bottom. And so what you should see here then is that I have 2 3's on bottom. So really I have 3 squared on bottom. And so we talked about that in our class. And so our second rule that you need to do is if you have any number to a negative exponent, and I'll just put negative b just so that it's not specific to a number, then what's going to happen, remember this is on the top, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that down to the bottom. So now the a goes on the bottom. And then I need an exponent on it, and so the exponent is still going to be the same number that I had before, except now it's going to be a positive number. Okay, and so this is your second rule. And any number to a negative exponent, you bring it down to the bottom, the whole number down to the bottom, and you raise it to that power. All right, so let's look at some examples here. So let's say we had 2 to the negative 2. Well, if it helps you, put a line under that and put a 1 there, okay? So that 2 needs to go to the bottom. Now I don't need the 1 there anymore because now I'm going to have a 2 there. This exponent now becomes a positive 2. And I also need something on the top, so I'm just going to put a placeholder on top. So really this is going to be 1 over, and 2 squared, well, I'm going to do that math. 2 times 2 is 4. So I get 1/4 as my answer there. We've got more examples. Let's try another one. So let's say I had 5 to the negative x. All right, so that means that 5 needs to go on the bottom since my exponent was negative. And then the x is going to be still my exponent, but I'm not going to have it negative. And then I just need a placeholder. Now, this is actually my answer because I don't know what x is, right? I don't know what this is, so I can't actually do this math right here. So I'm just going to leave this as my answer. All right, what if I had negative 2 to the 0 power? Remember that rule? We started that at the beginning of the video. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So that one's a pretty simple one, right? All right, what about if I had a fraction? Sometimes that's the question. What if I have a fraction and then I put that to a negative exponent? What do I do? Well, what it does is it takes whatever's on the top, moves that to the bottom, and then whatever's on the bottom moves that to the top. Okay, so now I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to put the 3 on top and the 2 on bottom, and now that is to the first power. My exponent becomes positive, but I really don't need that 1 because anything to the 1 power is just itself, so I'm just going to leave it as 3/2, and there's your answer for that one. Okay, another example. What if I had 0 to the negative 3rd power? This one's kind of crazy because then what happens? We still have to follow our rule. The negative or the 0 has to go to the bottom. So now I have 0 to the 3rd power and bottom. I need a placeholder on top. And then I have to go 0 to the 3rd power. 0 times 0 times 0 is just 0. This is a problem, right? I hope you all see this as a problem. This is like our first commandment in the math commandments. Thou shalt not divide by 0. So we just say no answer, or a lot of times we'll just say undefined. Okay? All right, let's start mixing some of our rules up here a little bit and see where we can go with these. So let's try this. What if I had 3 to the negative 2 times 3 to the positive 2? Well, if you remember back to our other rules, I know it says 3 to the negative 2 and I can move that to the bottom. There's all kinds of actually routes you can go. That's kind of cool stuff with exponents, is that I could do this actually a couple different ways. What I see personally is that I have the same base being multiplied to the same base. So that means I can add my exponents. So I have negative 2 plus 2. And negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So then I have 3 to the 0, which is 1. Another thing you could have done, maybe that's not what you saw, maybe what you saw is that that first 3 had a negative on it, right? And so if the first 3 has a negative on it, then that means that needs to go to the bottom. By the way, this 3 squared stays because it doesn't have a negative on it. And so then I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to leave that 3 squared on top. You know this one right here? I'm going to leave that one on top. But then that other one goes on bottom. But now that I moved it to the bottom, the negative exponent becomes a positive exponent. And 3 squared divided by 3 squared, that's divided by itself, so I'm going to get 1. So either way, no matter which way we did this, we should get 1 as an answer. Okay, another example. What if I had 2 to the negative 3rd power to the negative 2nd power? Do you remember this rule? The rule says if you have an exponent raised to another exponent, we multiply those exponents. So negative 3 times negative 2 is a positive 6. I don't need to do anything with negatives because the negatives cancel each other out. So now I just have 2 to the 6th power. And I believe on my last video, or one of my last videos, I did that wrong. So I actually have a calculator here to make sure I do it right. So we get 64. Okay, how about 3 to the negative 4th power? So once again, I've got a negative exponent. So I need to take that 3 and move it to the bottom. So I move it to the bottom. Now I have a positive 4. Right, because my exponent becomes positive. I have nothing on top, so I'm going to put a 1 there. So now I have 1 over, and then I take 3 to the 4th power, and that is 81. And there's my answer. Okay, so I am done with this video. Good luck.